Okay. You ready?
That's assist.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay.
Here we go. There we go.
Oh, no, wait, I'm looking at here
Yeah.
now. I'm gonna look at you.
You look at me.
Okay.
Look at me.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm going to be looking at you. I'm going to look over there for just 1 second.
Okay.
And
So
then
I
I'm gonna
can
go.
right
Yeah.
here. Okay. So
Unless
the
you want to
camera's-
say something to the public, and this
Oh,
is
no.
being recorded, and if they, then you can say, vote, please. I'm begging you, people, to vote. Okay. We're here with City Councilor Peter Tallman, another of the veteran councilors who is leaving the City Council at the end of this year. How long have you been in public service? I ask everybody. I can't keep track.
So it's a total of 25 years.
Yeah. Okay. So, what's it going to be like for you come January and the new city council gets put together and you're not part of it?
It's going to be an adjustment. Definitely will be. It's a bittersweet feeling.
Yeah.
You know, I've enjoyed it. I've been here my whole life except for my service in the military back in the late 70s, and I really enjoyed the interactions. Really enjoyed learning about city government. And I've enjoyed the people the most, the people I've been able to encounter, during my time as a city official.
Yeah, and you're also the chair of the Public Service Committee, which is like the happy committee, because it's people who are willing to volunteer for the city.
Yes.
And I wish a lot more people would do that, because we have a lot of committees and boards and commissions. But that's a happy job when you can review someone's the resume, enthusiasm, and say, yeah, I vote for you to be on whichever the municipal body. And going back in time, what have been some of the, this is what I said to Councilor McGee also. You're in the history of Holyoke, and your votes have helped Holyoke get this far.
Right.
How's it going to be when you're not going to have a vote? You're going to still have a voice. And if you watch the city council meetings from on Channel 15 or live streaming through Boxcast, what do you imagine it'll be like to just listen and not have any vote to take?
It's going to be a difficult process, because having a say in what goes on in the city in the past 25 years and having a voice, it's going to be difficult to watch it. But as I've been on the council, I've known several of the councilors, and some of them that are coming back I've worked with. So I feel good that I can be in connection with them. Mm-hmm. That if I feel something is not right or something should be changed, I can give my counsel to that person, mm-hmm. and can bring that forward to the city council, because mm-hmm. It's important as we grow as a city and as we change as a city, that we can see things that sometimes the average citizen does not see, and being able to focus on that and to help others do their job and legislate, I think is important, and it's something that, with the experience I have, that I'll be able to do.
The recent city council vote on the Ezekiel's plan, Safe Streets, you all agreed it was a great idea, but the funding part and was nebulous. How are we going to sustain this? And I imagine that has happened countless times in your history as a public servant, that the idea is great, but the money is not there. How do you, what's that, and then what's that like? It's like, yeah, I support this 100%, but there's no money over here.
We always got to think of the budget. That's one of the most important roles as a city councilor is finalizing the budget that we do in June. And as we see things come through the mayor, a lot of things are really great plans. And this was a great plan too. But there was so many different segments to that plan, so many different pieces, and the funding sources were there, but how do we sustain that, which was a big question a lot of my colleagues had. Mm-hmm. I voted for the plan. I thought it was good. Of course, it needed 9 votes, and I believe it got 7 votes.
Yeah.
But I think the mayor's going to come back and maybe piecemeal it mm-hmm. in certain things, and we definitely need more police on the streets. Mm-hmm. We definitely do. But some of the other things that were brought up, and we're getting the cameras. We voted for that out
mm-hmm.
of our supplemental budget.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the other items, as far as enforcement and code enforcement and things with laws helping residents.
Yeah.
That's important because when you have difficulties on the street, when you have people that are dealing drugs or bad people in different buildings, you got to make sure that the landlords are held accountable.
Yeah.
And sometimes, most of the time, a lot of these landlords are absentee landlords,
Yeah.
just collecting the money coming in.
Is there? I'm sorry, Councilor. Go ahead.
No, instead of just bringing the money in, and sometimes they just want that check, and they're not taking care of their building, not overseeing it. They may have somebody living in the building that manages the apartments, but still, there's not enough, I think, enforcement of the living conditions of the people in those apartments.
Is there a could there ever be a city ordinance or some sort of legislation that if you're going to become the property owner for a building of, with two or more, you have to live in the city. You have to be there. Yeah, and maybe even be in the building, I maybe that's too much. But this is a common problem in other cities where you have property owners. They don't take care of their property, but they collect the money.
Right.
And what can a city council do in that situation?
I think it's difficult to force somebody to live in a building if they purchase it.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
it would be nice.
It was not my best moment, Councilor.
No, that would be great. I would love to see that. And there are some people that
Yeah.
people that do, like 2 or 3 family houses. Sometimes the person will live there, so
Yeah.
everything's going to go well because the owner of the house is living on the first floor. So the
Yeah.
people on the second or third floor,
Yeah.
see that and they take care of the building. It would be great if we could have, but when you have 8 apartment building, 8 apartments in a building
Yeah.
or 12 apartments,
Yeah,
that's a lot to take care of.
yeah.
And a lot of them for these owners it's investments. I think we've got some really good landlords, but there's some landlords that live outside the city that don't really take care of the buildings like they should, and that's where the code enforcement has to come in, and that's where the health department has to come in to help strengthen the and help the residents that live there have their say.
Yeah, and that's, I understand that was also part of the plan, but speaking in general, you have voted for things. What are some of your proudest votes? I know there are a gazillion.
There's a few. I think some of the just mostly recent things, the voting. I know we have the new senior center. We had the police station I was part of. Just recently, I've been on the school building committee, and going through that process for going close to 2 years now, having a say as a city official on that new school building at Peck was really something that I take a lot of pride in. Being part of a collective group of people that have a lot of knowledge with the schools, with the funding, with what's going to be in there, the building of it, the location, everything. I think, and being around to see that in about a year or so, to see that new school built is really something that I really am proud of.
Yeah, I just drove by there yesterday. There was a hose, I guess, to temper down the dust or something. To think that finally that old building is gone, and this beautiful new building will be constructed. But the question remains: what happens with the students that are in middle school, but they're not going to be in that brand new middle school? Like what?
That's a tough thing because originally we tried to do the 2 schools with 1,000 students, and now it's 1,100. Now it's just one school with 550.
Yeah.
So you still have another 550 that might be in another school, 2 schools that don't have the state of the art.
Right.
And maybe there could be where if it's a 2-year school that could be rotated. I think to be fair, because you got a bunch of students, over 500 students that aren't going to have that state of the art building.
Yeah.
But as said by many people, that's learning isn't about the building.
Yeah.
It's about the educators.
Oh,
and that's
absolutely.
important. Yeah,
And
definitely.
at the same time, I foresee a lot of controversy from parents. Not that they're controversial, but the controversy is like, why is my child? One child can go there, but the other child is going over there, or my neighbors, or whatever.
Yeah.
And even though, of course, it's the educators. It's also the environment and something that's
Absolutely.
brand new and state of the art.
State of the art, yeah.
But the other building, I think, where the middle school students will be learning, it's not a horrible building either.
No, it's not that old, and then
Yeah.
they're getting upgrades too.
Yeah.
You know,
So windows, I think it is.
windows and some doors, and I think
Yeah.
if it's Sullivan, I think
Yeah.
it's they just put a new court out there.
Mm.
You know, they just finished it, a new play area
Yeah.
and stuff. I think that
Sweet.
was, you know, so
Sweet.
it'll be nice. But you know, like as you said, it is difficult if you have, you know, your neighbors going to this beautiful school and you're
Yeah.
going to a school that's been there for 30 years.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
could be difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a thing that public servants do, such as yourself, and when I say public servant, people who are elected or people who are appointed or people who apply for a job and they're working for the city of Holyoke. And it's a very noble profession. And it has its, you know, there's a tension sometimes at the city council meetings, which seems perfectly normal. That's how life is as
Yes.
well. Have you had a project that you really wanted support for, and you couldn't persuade your colleagues to back you up?
Not really. I mean, we've had differences in opinion on different things and different votes, but I've learned through the years that sometimes your idea is not the best idea, and sometimes the
That's a
person
hard
across
lesson.
the room makes
Yeah.
some sense.
Yeah.
And even though it may be difficult to understand that, I think you got to keep an open mind and saying, you know, maybe that isn't a bad idea. And I think collectively, the 13 of us at one time, well, it was 15 of us.
Yeah.
Collectively, you work things out and you do some compromise. You compromise.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, I like this part, but I don't like that part. So you work with your colleagues, and we're all in it for the best of the city.
Yeah.
Which is something I see in all. I may not always agree with some of my colleagues, but
Mm-hmm.
I know that they're in for the best. They're thinking of the residents.
Yeah.
They're thinking of what is important for us. Do we really need this project, or do we need this vote to keep our city, you know, in line? And sometimes it's a cost factor, and sometimes you got to realize that.
Isn't democracy beautiful?
Yes.
I love democracy. I said the same thing to Councilor McGee, and I'll say the same thing to Councilor McGivern. You three are leaving, and the fact that you three are leaving, what is it, almost 100 years of institutional memory is going to be gone. It's going to be disappeared. And even though there are people returning to the city council, such as Patricia Devine and Howard Reaney, and David Bartley remains.
He remains. Mike Sullivan's coming back.
And Mike Sullivan,
he's
thank
another
you.
one, yes.
Yeah, and Kevin Jourdain.
Yeah.
It still is, wow, the three of you are leaving. What do you think the impact will be of the three of you who have been, from the public view, I mean, everybody is a good guy, but
Yeah.
so yeah, that you're leaving. What do you think that's going to do for the city that you're all going?
You know, I've heard from people after I made my announcement, and Todd and Joe, that you know, it's difficult when you see people that have been there so long and are leaving. You know, most people understand that they thank you for the matter of fact. Even at a couple of meetings, we've had some private citizens thanks the three of us, which is very heartwarming, because you know, I remember serving with a lot of councilors that had a lot of years in, and once they left, they were gone. But to hear that the number of years that we put in, it's going to be a change. But there's counselors there that do have a number of years. Kevin Jourdain, I think he had 26 years in, and plus his time with the waterworks, and David Bartley and Linda Bacon have well over 10 years in. So there is some stability there, and with some new counselors and some returning counselors that had a number of years on the council. They know what's going on. They know what's they're doing. But I really looked up to Joe and Todd with their years, and they're, you know, their since Todd being an attorney, and Joe having this knowledge for the city since, you know, he started in 1980, elected in 79, and you know, I was just getting back from the military in 1979, and he served that whole time. It's amazing, and I really admire both of them for the work they've done for the city, and they've only done it for the best of the citizens, what they felt, just as I myself, what I felt was the right thing to do at the time. So
when I spoke with Councilor and Council President McGee, he said, you know, I'm always available. you know, I'm not leaving, you know, the that group of people. It sounds like it's the same for you, that you're also available and that you'll still be very aware of what's happening in the city, not just like, okay, I'm gone, I did it, and I don't really care what's happening. You do still care a lot about what's happening.
Definitely. It's so much part of my life that once you leave something, just like anything, whether it was my postal service, I still keep in touch
Yeah.
with people. Whether it was my
Yeah.
military service,
Mm-hmm.
that I've been in touch with people. Even one of my friends that's out in Chicago that I served with almost 40 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
or over 40 years ago, that there's a connection, there's a
Mhm.
bond,
Mm-hmm.
and that bond does never get broken.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going anywhere. People say, you're going to serve, and I need a little break.
Yeah.
You know, I need a little
Yeah.
rest. And
Yeah.
I says, oh, you're going to serve on something? I says, well, in time maybe, but I definitely will be available, and I'll be around, and I'm going to be following things.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like I'm going to turn off the TV on Tuesday night and not watch it.
Yeah.
You know, and in my encounters during the day, whether it's shopping or walking or people see you,
Yeah.
and they still going to talk to you.
Yeah.
They still know that you had that
Yeah.
connection, and I think that's a good thing, because they know that, you know, I even though I don't have that physical vote
Yeah.
and not being there in that Tuesday night
Yeah.
meeting, that I'll still be in tune with what happens in the city.
How do you let go of that, though? You know, that you have been right in the thick of it for all these years, and now you have all this time because you had to prepare. You know, city council, the package that the city councilors receive. I mean, there's a lot there sometimes, and what's that like? Like, just like, okay, that Tuesday in January,
Yeah.
you're no longer going to be on the city council.
Yeah.
And it's not like you served for 6 years. You were there for a long time.
Yeah.
And did a lot of public service to the city of Holyoke.
Yeah.
Is it like, what does one do when you've been part of something so big and now you have let go of it?
You know, people ask me, what are you going to do with your time? Because it is demanding, you know,
Mhm.
not just the Tuesday nights. It's the
Mhm.
phone calls, it's running into people and chatting them, it's getting texts and emails.
Yeah.
And I'm going to miss that when I leave. And I've been looking forward to the first Tuesday in January when the new people take over, and to see them take that oath,
Yeah.
you know, because I've done it several times, and it's a special feeling,
Yeah.
you know. And people say, what are you going to do with your time? Well, there are things in life that I continue to do,
Yeah.
and the family time is important. My family's been so supportive, my wife and my two daughters. I have 6 grandchildren now, from ages 24 down to a year and a half.
Wow.
So, and they're close by, they're in the area. And, you know, sometimes during the week when we're getting prepared for a meeting, or you're going to a meeting, or you have to eat supper in 15 minutes because you got to get down to City
Yeah.
Hall,
Yeah.
it could be a little bit more relaxing. And one of the things I want to do, if it's possible, and not right away, but I want to get involved in veterans
Mhm.
service,
Yeah.
some way with veterans. And I don't know in which way it will be, but down the road, I want to make sure that veterans' needs are taken care of, and that, you know, me myself, that I've seen the needs that veterans need, and that there's so many that I want to see if I can be a voice for them down the road, and this will free up a little bit of my time to do that.
Yeah.
You know, I've always wanted to do. I've got stacks of my family pictures and letters and history of genealogy,
Mhm.
and I've been wanting to work on that, and I got it all there, but I just have to organize it.
Yeah.
And
You got projects.
yeah, and one of the reasons I wanted to do that, because my grandfather and my mother's father came over from Ireland, and he was actually a city worker. He worked cleaning the streets here in the city of Holyoke, probably in the 1930s and 40s, and
Wow.
it gave me a little bit of incentive to say,
Wow.
you know, I want to be someone that could give something of myself
Mm-hmm.
to this community, because my community was so good to my grandfather that provided him a job when he needed one.
Mm-hmm. Well, what you have given to the city of Holyoke, it cannot be measured. How families have benefited by votes that you have taken. It's a big deal to move away from such an important and consequential uh, position. And I wish I could, like, you know, like, see all of you who are leaving watch the city council meeting and, like, hear your commentary on, well, this needs this vote, or we need more information, or we should send that to legal. What are, like, I guess I'm asking this of everybody, your wish list for Holyoke. If you could help bring whatever project, whatever situation to Holyoke, what's your wish list? What's your heart's desire for Holyoke?
I think the big thing is for me is jobs. I would love to see really a big manufacturing firm come into Holyoke and provide a lot of jobs. I would love to see the schools focus more on vocational needs.
Yeah.
I really think that is important to people to find out, learning about electricity and about plumbing and about car repair, because that's where it's going. I believe it's going that, and I really do believe that we need a strong police force.
Yeah.
I really do. I don't think we have enough police on the beat, and safety is utmost importance for the citizens.
Yeah.
To be able to safely come downtown and to feel safe and comfortable, and we have a force that they're dedicated, but they need the tools, they need everything they can to be able to be out there and to protect the public.
Yeah.
That is important. I've worked with a lot of the department heads throughout the city through my tenure here, and anytime I've asked for something, whether it's a street sign or a new road or sidewalks or equipment for the fire department or the police department, it's always been done. It's always been there. And I think that's important, to have a good public safety departments, and a good educational system. I would also love to see the schools get taken back to our control.
Yeah.
But that's something it has to be sought through the state.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that has to be done with our students getting better grades and staying in school.
Yeah.
I mean, when you focus on the children in school and they stay in school, they're going to do better.
Yeah.
When somebody leaves in the 9th or 10th grade, no education, a lot of times they're not going to go and get their GED.
No.
A lot of times they may not get a good job.
No.
And sometimes they just end up on the street, and it's not healthy. It's not healthy at all for the community.
Yeah.
And part of that is what we can do as citizens, because sometimes the environment they're from doesn't give them a reason to thrive.
Yeah.
And I think we need to do that, where we have to look out for our younger people, our youth, our students, to show them that we really care for them. Yeah.
You reminded me of something that Jordan Hart, the director of the Greater Holyoke Chamber of Commerce, said when we had a conversation recently about how important safety is for the development of business.
Yes.
People need to know that they can be open until 9 or 10 o'clock at night, for instance, and everybody's safe. And I don't have the mind of a police chief. I don't know how to create that. But it's good that we got away from the defund the police thing, because that was, I always ask, so then who are we going to call when somebody breaks into the house? Other things came up from that movement, but the police need more support. Do you think they're getting the support that they need in order to do the best job they can?
I think there's ways that we can give more support to them, and collectively thank them for the job. I mean, in many areas, I run into people, police officers, whether it's at the coffee shop or at a store, and ask them, how things are going and what they need. And sometimes there's just so much work, and there's not enough workers. Yeah. So the people the police officers that are working, sometimes they're doubled up.
Yeah.
And they have to work another shift. Yeah. Even if they don't want to.
Yeah.
They have to stay.
Yeah.
And they've got families too.
Yeah.
So I think that's the key, is try to make them, show them that we are grateful for the job they do. Because for a lot of years they were getting knocked around, and where they felt that I'm not appreciated.
Yeah.
I think in any position, any city worker, whether it's police, fire, even the DPW, anybody even works in city offices, I've made a point to thank them for the job they do,
Yeah.
no matter what it is.
Yeah.
And I just talked to two of them out in the alleyway here that work for the city and saying, you know, I appreciate what you do.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's cleaning the office upstairs or cleaning the
Yeah.
senior building. I
Yeah.
mean, I think if you show that people that you appreciate the work they do,
Mm-hmm.
you know, even though they get paid a salary,
Mm-hmm.
that it's showing them that I'm needed
Mm-hmm.
and I'm valued.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to show our employees, and even employees that maybe at Stop and Shop.
Yeah.
I try to thank them, and my daughter looks at me sometimes and say, "Dad, what are you doing that for?" And I said, "Thank you for being here today. 'Cause
Yeah.
if they weren't there
Yeah.
to scan our groceries through,
Yeah.
we wouldn't be getting them unless we'd go over to the corner there and try to scan them ourselves." And employees should be valued for the work they do, and you know
Yeah.
that's important.
What you bring then how important kindness is.
Yeah.
And it seems that kindness is missing from so much of our debates, that we don't have to agree, but we can be kind to one another.
Right.
What do you think is needed to just bring that, and this is in general, to bring that kind of, all right, you know, you vote that way, I vote this way, or I believe in this and you believe in that, and we can still, like with the people at the supermarket, yeah, I agree, saying, thank you
Yeah.
for being here today. To acknowledge that people are showing up. And for all I know, the people I say that to, we would disagree on everything, but we can still be kind to one another.
Right.
How do we bring that back?
It's not an easy thing. It has to come within your heart, I think. And I think, you know, as far as being on the council and respecting other people's opinions, you know, sometimes they say, you know, there could be infighting and disagreements, but once you walk out that gate,
Mm-hmm.
you talk and everybody gets along, you know. And there's been some harrying times the last couple of years. There's been some words said. There's been some things that I'm not too pleased about in the council that have gone on. That how do you stop that? You know, you can't change a person's personality,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't change a person's upbringing. So whatever they
Mm-hmm.
were brought up in or whatever they feel, you know, I think if you show a little bit of kindness to somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes that'll come back,
Mhm.
and that'll shine through them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's not always easy, but I think working together and respecting others' opinions,
Mm-hmm.
and saying that, you know, I may not agree with that, but you know, you made some valid points there,
Mm-hmm.
and try not to holler back and forth.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't treat city employees, especially with, you know, disparaging remarks. You
Yeah.
know, they're working for the city; they have
Yeah.
a salary, but we have to respect the work they do. And
Yeah.
you can disagree with them, and whether it's the law department or the police or fire,
Yeah.
but there's no reason to raise your voice against somebody
No,
at all.
no,
You know, that's uncalled for.
Yeah.
You know?
No.
Yeah.
If the kindness, courtesy.
Courtesies, yes.
If they're being civil to people. And I mean, I'm just hoping that there's going to be this big wave of it coming back, because the last, I don't know, 10 years or so, it seems that it's gotten worse and worse. And I don't think there's any decade in any country's history that anybody could say that was a great decade. We had no problems at all.
No.
I think from the beginning of mankind, there
Always been.
always been. But at the same time, I've seen this like meanness come up, and you're known as a very kind person, and as a counselor also, and I mean, so are the other counselors. You know, in their best moments, everybody is.
Yes.
But you stand out.
Well, thank you.
As
Thank you.
that.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked you, like, how do we get that back in the conversation, not just the city council meetings, but you know, talking to
General
people.
life, yeah.
And just right, because otherwise, you know, this democracy that we love so much. You know, we have to have room for all these voices, even when we think that some people, from whatever side,
Right.
are saying things that is just, oh my goodness, no.
Right.
That like there's no side that is right, you know, that is absolutely correct, 100% of the time, and that discourse is missing. And I noticed, like, I've seen you as a counselor, even in heated exchanges, even in about a proposal, you unfailingly always come out with something kind to say, something that helps lower the temperature.
Lower the tone. Yeah. I think that's important. Yeah, and
Yeah.
we have to sort of sometimes look at what's happening around us and try to make things. I try to be, I guess the word is peacemaker. You know, I try to be get along with everybody. You know, and what's the old saying? You love your enemies, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to show some love to somebody that may not like like you.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to forgive people too.
Yeah.
You know, whatever, if they've done any wrongs to you, to forgiveness, because it's not healthy carrying that forgiveness in your heart.
Yeah.
Because it really comes back
Oh
on
no.
you.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it just eats you up.
It just eats you. Yeah, it's not healthy at all. But it's been a great run.
What
I've
drew you
enjoyed.
to this though? What drew you to get into the thick of it?
You know, I think because being a Holyoker, being here my whole life, and growing up, I can remember my mother back in the '60s when I was going to Highland School and I was 10 or 11 years old. She was at the polls working, you know, working the polls where they used to vote. And at that time, it was Dan Dibble. And I remember the little postcards that said, "Dan's my man," you know, and he became mayor for maybe 1 or 2 terms. But after I got in the military, I came back and I'm saying, you know, what can I do? You know, how can I have a say? You know, I played on teams. I played on track teams, baseball teams where I wasn't the starter. You know, I was sitting on the bench or I was on the sidelines because I wasn't the star athlete. But saying maybe I can get involved. What can I do? And in politics, it's just, this guy that was shy and probably one of the quietest guys in high school, and probably people called me a nerd. What can I do to be involved? And I wanted to be in the middle of it. You know, I didn't want to be sitting in the back row there at city council meetings. I want to be in the midst. I wanted to be in that inner circle. You know, I wanted to have a say, basically.
So you took out your papers.
So I took out my papers, and first year I got beat. First year I got beat. I ran in my ward, Ward 7, in 1989, and I got beat. Probably by a few hundred votes, but I didn't give up.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
then what was that even though there were lots of votes by which you did not get the seat, you said, I'm gonna try again.
Yeah.
What was that in you?
I think what drove me was the failure. I'm saying I didn't succeed now, but I know there's something in me that can make it. And in 1991, I took my papers out, but instead of working for a ward, I ran at large, and it was 15 councilors. And I said, this is going to be a lot more work.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're running for mayor. You got to get support from every single precinct in the city.
Yeah.
And the top 8 get in, and that year I believe there were 16. There was almost a runoff. There were 16 people running. This year was only 9, I think.
Yeah.
There were 16 people running for city council, and I finished number 8. And the person I beat, it was number 9th, was a person that was actually a state rep and an alderman for years, a guy named Franny Rogers, who I respect so much. And I got that 8th seat, and I was in. And we were still considered aldermen that year.
Yeah.
Until the following year, where we changed the name
The city council.
to city council.
Yeah. Yeah.
And an important thing with that year was I learned a lot. But I had 2 daughters, and my youngest daughter was about 6 years old. And I'm saying, do I want to be so immersed in this city council that I missed that growing up years? So what I did is I stepped out after that year. I tried to get back in 1999, got beat by 75 votes.
Oh, that's
75
painful.
votes
That's
citywide.
painful.
I was number 9. So I was on the outside again.
75 people did not vote that.
That year I was out. I was out. But within a year, Mike Kane, who was a Ward 5 alderman, became state rep.
Yeah.
And John Brunel, who was an at-large alderman, became Ward 5 alderman. And they were looking for a counselor to fill that open seat for that 1 year.
Yeah.
That's why I have an odd year in there. So that 1 year, I went against 4 or 5 other city of people that wanted that seat, and I ended up getting it. And ever since then, I've been on the council, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. I really have.
So every time that you take out your papers for the next election,
Sure.
you enjoyed that. Get the signatures, run, win. That must feel really good.
Yeah.
Also, that you know that people support you, that people believe in you, that you're representing them. Have there been times when you felt, I know that a lot of people want me to vote this way, but I think I need to vote that way?
There have been some instances in that case, yeah.
And how do you manage that?
That's not easy, because sometimes you make a decision that you feel is right by the city, And sometimes you have people on the other side, voters that have sent you messages or texts or letters saying that, no, you shouldn't be voting for this, and then I do go vote for it. So you know that there's going to be some people that aren't happy with you.
Yeah.
But you got to make that vote because it's important. You got to go with what you feel is best for the city.
Yeah.
And sometimes you say, well, those 50 or 60 people that I lost, am I going to gain them in 2 years when I go out and run again?
Yeah.
And sometimes you do lose some of them.
Well,
you know?
Sometimes you gain more because of
the
other votes.
The other side, the other votes that people might have said, well, he made a good decision there.
Yeah.
And that really does make you feel good. And it's tough sometimes making certain votes and decisions.
I know.
And especially when people are right there in front of you, and sometimes they're in the lot and right there at City Hall.
Yeah.
And okay, you got to vote now, and the person's sitting right there. And
Yeah.
sometimes you got to vote, against that contract or against that person or against that grant or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it's important that you make a decision and you do what feels right for the best of the city.
Well, you have, in all your years of public service, have given the city of Holyoke a giant gift, which is your best intentions, your the most thoughtful considerations, and I know that people appreciate that. And as I've been watching the city council, I watch you guys on TV. After I set up. And sometimes it's like, oh my God, would you guys just stop already? Doesn't anybody want to go home? I want to go to sleep.
Right.
But that's all part of democracy, right? That's all listening. Some councillors hardly speak, other councillors speak a lot more, and you agree or disagree. Thank you very much. This is where I'm leading to. Thank you very much for giving that big chunk of your heart to the people of Holyoke all these years.
I appreciate that, and I think I have a lot of gratitude for the city for giving me that opportunity. I really do, and I feel that I'm the one that's really gaining, because of what I've learned, not just in politics, but in people, in the way people are, in the way people think, in the way people love. I think that's important, and I've gained all those years, and I can take that with me for as long as I live.
Oh my God, this is like the Oprah show. I'm like every time I interview you guys, I end up like getting teary-eyed. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Very
it's been
grateful.
Great. Yeah, I'm grateful. And for the city of Holyoke, it's been a great run. It's been a great ride, and I'll be around. I'm not going anywhere, and I still will have a say in what goes on. I just won't be in that inner circle there, but I'll be around. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, I'm going to stop this recording. This is just, I love doing these
That was great.
conversations.
I was